This is the Under the Ring Report. Now, here are the masters of armchair booking, John the Flesh Wound and Cousin Tom.
And welcome back, wrestling fans. It is the Under the Ring Report with me, Tom. How you doing?
Currently, I am trying to recover from my son getting his driver's permit.
Oh my God, you poor guy.
And let's just say it was an eye-opening experience into the modern-day teenager.
Can he actually concentrate enough to drive?
Yes, he can, but, I can remember growing up, the seatbelt rules weren't that strict, and so when we went anywhere, I was pretty much leaned over the front seat, kind of center, watching the road at all times, watching my dad drive, and that was just normal. Every once in a while he'd tell me to move my head because he couldn't see out the rearview mirror. And kids now, my kids, if we're going somewhere now, they're on their phone or whatever, they're talking to their friends, and we went to a parking lot completely empty. The only thing in this parking lot was parking lot light, and a church bus, which is out by a garage, and all I wanted them to do was pull into a spot, back out, move to another spot, back out. He just got it today. Oh my God, we got some work to do. So
you'll get him there. You'll get him.
It was eye-opening. Patience is a virtue, so they say. So yeah, we'll get there.
That's okay. Well, we'll calm you down a little bit because we're going to talk the NWA. All right. And if you would have asked me this probably 4 years ago, I probably would have laughed. Okay. I mean, we both have to admit that the NWA was at one point nowhere near when it used to be the promotion. Back in its heyday, it was bigger than the WWE easily. But as things happened, it just slowly.
Quite a while ago.
Yeah, that's been a long time, but it got lost in the shuffle. But Billy Corgan purchases the rights to the NWA, and he starts a rehabilitation tour kind of for the NWA title. And you and I were at All In, and we got to see Cody Rhodes beat Nick Aldis to become the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, holding the 10 pounds of gold. What did you think of that? And then we're going to kind of follow what's going to happen after that.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. The first thing, when I first heard about Billy Corgan purchasing the NWA, I knew he was trying to get Impact.
Yeah.
And wasn't able to. And so I heard he did that. I'm like, that's interesting, but I'm not really sure how that's going to work, as there hasn't really been anything for so many years. And then they started doing they switched titles and gave it to Aldis. And really the YouTube deal, the 10 pounds of gold that Dave Lagana produces, that's what really got me interested in this match with Cody. And I don't know how many people have went and watched those YouTube series that they've been doing. They're not long. It's not like you got to devote 35 to 40 minutes on it, but it does an awesome job of showing the history, getting the relevance. You feel the emotion. And when we went to All In, that crowd was completely invested in that match. You could feel everybody was pulling for Cody to win it.
Oh, yeah.
Because they knew it was going to be history making. You're going to have the first ever NWA champion whose father was also an NWA champion. And to see how it worked was awesome to see in person. And now, I'm really looking forward to how they're building this up. And again, I think they've had 2 more of the series on YouTube come out.
Yes, they have.
Yeah. So it's kind of a grassroots, kind of reminds me of back in the day of trading tapes. But now you're using social media to do it. Because back in the day, everyone's like, hey, did you see this here? Check out this VCR tape. And then you'd give it back and so on and so forth. And now it's a quicker way to do it. And I'm really looking forward to it, because he's going to face Willie Mack in Vegas, if I'm not mistaken.
He actually showed up on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. And some people can pick that up. It's a syndicated program. I get it. I watch it every once in a while here. But, he showed up and pretty much said that coming up, he is going to be facing Willie Mack next week at Ring of Honor, and that is at the Death Before Dishonor event that they have going on. I tell you what, I got a soft spot for Willie Mack. I love the guy. First time I saw him was the first season of Lucha Underground. Yeah, and you know what? I have been a big fan since. I catch him on Twitch when he's part of House of Hardcore. Wherever he's at, I try to watch some of his matches. I mean, one of my goals is to try and catch him live sometime. But I don't know, man. There's something about him. He is a very agile man for his size and pulls off moves that sometimes you just sit there scratching your head going, what the hell?
Well, the number one thing with him is he looks like he doesn't do any weights. You know what I mean? He's got that stomach. He doesn't look like a guy that can do the things that he does.
Okay.
But he can go. There's no doubt about it. He can go.
Yeah, he can. And like I said, I am looking forward to it because I think he's one of those guys that gets overlooked. I mean, he's been wrestling for a while. I think he's like 31. And he's from what I've watched, every time I watch him, I always leave going, holy shit, how did the guy pull this off? And I don't know what it is. You never hear people talk about him when they're talking about independent wrestlers out there. And so I love it that he's getting a shot at the NWA title. It's putting him in the forefront to a lot of folks that maybe don't know as much about Willie Mack. And this is a good way to get him out there for more people to start talking about him. He's a guy that is doing such great things out there. You know, I really root for some of these guys because you know they're busting it, and you just hope that maybe they hit that next level where they should be. And kind of a way that people really cheered on Flip Gordon. It's kind of the way I feel about Willie Mack. You know, Willie Mack is doing some amazing things, and I just hope he gets the credit he deserves.
He's one of those guys that, you know, like we said before, when you see him, it's easy to underestimate him because you don't realize what you're going to get out of that guy until you finally see one of his matches. I'm looking forward to the match with him and Cody. I don't see Cody losing the belt since right down the road they're already billing the reunion against Nick Aldis, the second, the return match.
NWA's 70th anniversary. That's going to be happening just in your neck of the woods. So that's October 21st in Nashville at the Asylum.
But that being said, I catch myself sometimes looking forward to something, and then I look ahead and think, well, it probably won't be the outcome that I'm thinking. I try to limit myself from that because sometimes I take away from the enjoyment of the match. But then once I get involved in watching it, because I'm just there to have a good time anyways, I let it go. But, to think here it is 2018 and we're talking about the 70th anniversary of the NWA and 2 different title defenses in a few months' time, a title that hasn't been relevant since, before WCW came to existence?
Well, there was a few moments. It was in TNA for a little while. It was part of ECW for a little while. It even made an appearance in Ring of Honor for a little while. So, it's sprinkled in there and had a couple moments. If you remember, Dan Severn brought it on WWF TV. So,
yeah, that's right.
So there were moments. It never had that same appeal as it had when just before Ted Turner bought WCW and then turned it into the WCW title. That was kind of the last gasp before. So it's cool to say that, hey, we got to see an NWA championship match.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to say.
Yeah, and that people are talking about Cody and all this too. That is a big deal. From what I heard, they did phenomenal on selling tickets for that event. And it's something that people really wanted to go see because the match they did it all in was great because they told a great story behind it and getting you to that point. So you felt the payoff. And I think 10 Pounds of Gold on YouTube has been doing a good job of telling the rematch story, getting people ready for the rematch. And, I'll probably figure out, they've got to be streaming it or something, so I'll figure out a way and I'll probably end up watching the event. It's history. I'm invested in what these guys are doing. Now, my personal opinion is I'd like to see Cody hang on to this belt because I think it adds a higher stature to the NWA title. It also gives them TV time on Ring of Honor. And I imagine that there's a deal where he can bring it to New Japan when he shows up to wrestle there too. So, Cody with the belt, way bigger profile than Aldis could ever give. And I give Aldis credit. He's done a nice job of restoring a lot of respectability to the belt. Because, Tim Storm, did what he had to. Great guy, great start of that story. But Nick Aldis took that belt to a different level. And I think Cody has jumped up even farther with him having the belt to a whole other area where you can look at him as a champion and he starts to feel like he's right up there with the other major promotions is kind of my feeling.
If they let him bring it to New Japan, then that'll really make it a world's title. You know what I mean? Harry's going to defend it in Vegas. Going to defend it in Nashville. All for, one's Ring of Honor, one's NWA Reunion. Don't they have a Cow Palace show again? Not Cow Palace, but they're going to be on the West Coast for New Japan. Yeah,
they will.
So if he brings it with him there, I know he's got a match with Juice for the United States title. Getting back to my point, that the one thing that I liked with Aldis was the way he would go around to all the different places and defend that title against all comers. So that really helped the relevancy of that title also. I still can't get over that we're talking about the National Wrestling Alliance in 2018, but I think it's really cool that we are.
Oh, I'm with you on that. We're talking about Cody and being the NWA World title holder. So if everything works out and he holds the belt, I wonder if there's a point too, because he's talked about in interviews where he'd love to be a free agent per se, where he could freely jump around for promotions. If he wants to show up in Impact as the NWA World Title holder, he could. He could show up in New Japan. He could show up at Ring of Honor. It never happened, but he could show up in WWE and kind of harken back to the old days of where you defend that belt everywhere.
Well, this day and age, it's a lot closer than what it used to be.
It is, because you know what? You've already got Ring of Honor and New Japan working together. This All In brought together probably the biggest collection of different wrestlers from different federations and organizations than had been together in a long time. And I wonder how long before we see a AAA and an Impact say, okay, we'll start working with Ring of Honor a little bit. We'll start working with you know what I mean?
Next month you have the Jericho Cruise, and that's Ring of Honor and Impact work.
But what I'm saying though is that's a little different. What I'm saying is the companies themselves saying, okay, together we can do more than by ourselves. Because you tell me right now that Ring of Honor could sell out Madison Square Gardens by itself. No.
Oh, no.
They needed New Japan, and also in a way they also were riding off the coattails of All In, and that helped too. But I'm saying though is I have a feeling that if what Cody's trying to say, if he could get to the point where he's a traveling champion, that brings a whole new element to professional wrestling, because you can bring all these small, I mean, you could bring, as I just talked about, the championship wrestling from Hollywood. You could bring guys from there, from Bar Wrestling, from House of Hardcore. All these smaller tier wrestling federations could get involved in the mix. And that's where I look at and go, we could be on to something totally different, where there are no more barriers, where instead of wrestlers being contracted to one company, they could sign contracts where they could freely move about wherever they feel like, in a way bringing us back to the old NWA.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because that was the old standard with the old NWA. That was the deal.
Mm-hmm.
You had your territories, but if you were the NWA champ, you showed up at whatever territory you wanted, and defended your title, and that's what made you a world's champion, is because you defended it across all territories.
Mm-hmm.
You might be in a Harley race country and doing the wrestling at the Chase, defending your belt.
Could be in Flair country.
That's right. You could be in Flair country. Could be down in Oklahoma and Cowboy Bill Watts area. You were the NWA champ. You showed up and defended, and then you went back wherever your territory was, but you were pretty much free to roam, back before McMahon started gobbling everything up. A lot of that's lost, and a lot of people older than me might remember it, but
and that's why I feel
it's been a long time.
Yeah, and that's why I wonder if, with what happened at All In, if this is something that is a dream, is a hope for a lot of these guys. Because you know what? Seriously, to see some of the matches that we had, and to look at a Pentagon who could show up in New Japan. How would you like to see Pentagon and Okada go at it? Another Kenny Omega match. There's a lot of things that could happen that you're just kind of like, okay, I don't know. Will Ospreay versus Phoenix? I'd watch that. So that's kind of where I look at, is with all these guys that they're doing okay. They're not killing it. They're doing okay. But if you allow the ability for talent to jump all over, number one, it's hard to keep up. I mean, I don't know how I'd be able to watch everything if I knew that my favorite wrestler could be anywhere, any moment. And storylines would be driven not just by what's on TV, but a lot more online, because you never know where they were going to go. So you'd always be having that base to go back to, kind of like being the elite. So I just wonder if that's maybe the end game when we're all said and done.
Yeah, well, and that's the beauty of Twitter and YouTube and all the other social media outlets that all these performers use. That's a way, if that was to ever come to pass, you could keep up on all of it. Because I know there's no way that people are going to pay a subscription for all those different services in order to watch all that stuff. It's just almost too much content to consume.
Yeah.
For most people.
Well, there's no way you can keep track of all. You can, I've got the Fight app, and I hardly ever watch Ring of Honor's episodes each week. I hate to say it, unless I know there's something I really want to watch. I can't. I don't have time. New Japan, I pick and choose what are the big events I really want to watch. And Impact, I hate to say, but even though the show's a lot better, it's hard to keep track of it. So I try to keep up on Reddit and YouTube once in a while, see what's going on. And with the WWE product, I mean, I hate to say it, I just don't care. I've canceled the network subscription for now, so I don't even keep up on Next. You know, right now I think I've got enough other federations out there, and I'm still 2 seasons behind on Lucha Underground. So somehow I'll get caught up, but I've got so much I can't keep up with everything, and I know there's other people out there the same, so you just have to pick and choose what you want to watch. And I think if NWA does something like this, and I guess there's talk out there of maybe a tag team and maybe down the line, maybe a women's champion too. You never know. I'd heard someone talking and they had mentioned that Jazz has the women's championship. So
really,
well, and it's kind of one of those things where it just kind of went dead after a while because she had it and they were done. So last time they heard that she still was in possession of the actual belt.
Well, I heard that she still wants to. I'm pretty sure I heard that she wants to come to Impact. Just last week, we started talking about that.
Yeah. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I would look forward to seeing the ability for these wrestlers, because I mean, there's such differing styles, and we're getting taste of them because of our ability to watch everything. But some of the stuff going on in Mexico, coming up here, Impact has had a relationship thanks to Conan, and that's how Pentagon and Phoenix have made their way to Impact, and it brings a different style. But I want to see all these styles mesh together. I'm not into the old, just regular old white bread crap that WWF throws down your throats now. I've been experiencing wrestling from Japan, you know, Mexican wrestling, all these different things. I want it all, and I don't want a watered down WWE version, so that's why I'm not watching that.
Well, and if you just think about what you just said there, you wouldn't have been exposed to any of that had it not been for the last several years of the way it's exploded with social media.
Oh yeah, unless you're a tape trader.
Yeah, you know, and that's your hardcore fan. Like you said, there's so many people like Bandito that we saw it all in. He's just out of this world. He had that match with Jeff Cobb at Battle of Los Angeles, and I don't know if you saw any of the highlights on.
I did catch a little bit of it. Yeah,
he caught Jeff Cobb. Jeff Cobb did like a crossbody, and he caught Jeff Cobb midair. I mean, Jeff Cobb is 300 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, he's basically a refrigerator. He's a rectangular shape of a man. To see that Luchador Bandito perform, I would have never in a million years would have guessed he had the strength to catch a guy like that and hold him. You know, it's impressive. And to think that he's able to do something like that and still do the high-flying stuff. And going back to talking about Willie Mack.
Yeah.
You know, there's a guy who can do a standing backflip. It's like, wait, where'd that come from?
we have very athletic guys now, and you know what? Sometimes they're very deceivingly athletic, and that's why I like Willie Mack. Yeah, Bandito. I mean, until they announced him, I had no idea. So that's the cool thing when you see those folks come out of nowhere, and you're like, "What the hell was that?"
Yeah.
It's not the same when you're watching WWF or WWE. I mean, because they're wrestling a certain style. They're not allowed to wrestle their style. They have to conform to the WWE way. So unlike these independent wrestlers, they're wrestling their style. I mean, that's why you can have famous dick wrestler Joey Ryan doing his thing, Bandito doing his thing, Pentagon, you know, Kenny Omega, Okada, all these guys have their own style, and there's no one there sitting going, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. I'm sorry.
Or you can.
Yeah,
but you got to face the hard camera.
Or I'm sorry, Young Bucks, you guys use the super kick too much. Let's cut that down. That's not going to work. It doesn't matter. These guys can do what they want, and you know what? What they're doing is great because people are being entertained, and I think sometimes you can overproduce, micromanage too much, and just end up killing what you have because you beat down the people that work for you so much, they lose that enthusiasm for why they wrestle. And I have a feeling there's a lot of people that wrestle for the WWE sometimes that don't have that passion. They're getting paid. They're happy about that, but I don't think they have the same passion that they did before they made WWE.
It's all about the paycheck at some point in time.
That's true. So that's going to do it for this week's episode. Tom, fill everybody in on what we're going to be doing here on Twitter for the next few weeks as we accumulate some votes.
Yeah. Well, we were talking before we started the podcast about a few ideas, and we're talking about movies. And so we're going to throw up some Twitter polls. What is your top 3 or just a favorite? Let's do a wrestling movie, and then a movie featuring a wrestler. And then on the flip side, what is your least favorite? And that ought to be interesting because there's a lot of, and then we'll do least favorite wrestling movie and then least favorite movie with a wrestler. So, if you're a Hulk Hogan guy and you want to argue the merits of,
Oh, God. Suburban Commando.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking there's so many, and we're doing movies. So if you want to name drop Thunder in Paradise in there somewhere too, just for the heck of it, go right ahead. But yeah, I'm interested to see what everyone has to say about it because Lord knows there's been some doozies. Over the years.
Indeed. But you know what? Wrestlers got to get paid. So anyway, Tom will get those up on the Twitter. Vote. Let us know your thoughts. And who knows? We may come up with some more because unfortunately there's some bad stuff out there, and we may throw in a TV show. We'll see.
I think this is going to be a very fun topic.
Oh my gosh. I actually think that we also need to pop in there best wrestler musician or band and worst wrestler band. So anyway, get on Twitter at UTR Podcast, vote, and make sure also to subscribe to the show at undertheringreport.com. Thanks for joining us, and be ready here next time for the Under the Ring Report.
This is Harley Race, and if you want to hear about wrestling and what's happening today, listen to Under the Ring.
Follow the Under the Ring Report on Twitter at UTRR Podcast. You can subscribe to the Under the Ring Report on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher, or visit undertheringreport.com. Thanks for listening to the Under the Ring Report.